Welcome to this month's Friends You Keep. As they say, we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And at Erin Wellness, we believe that sustainable health and wellness is an accumulation of 5 pillars: the thoughts you think, the friends you keep, daily movement, nutrition, and lastly, supplementation. So each month we feature guests doing exceptional things that will hopefully inspire you to step into all you are destined to be. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's Friends You Keep. I am so excited this month to have Selena Woo on the podcast. Thank you so much, Selena, for taking time to be here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Erin. You are a ball of energy. So when you reached out, I was more than ecstatic to share some space with you today.
Thank you. All right, so let's just get started. I'm going to read your incredible bio. And I should actually make a disclaimer. I'm in my luteal phase, so I am a tongue twister today. I've had some tongue twisting moments, so I'm going to do that disclaimer first. With over 2 decades in the financial services industry, Selena is currently Vice President, Advisory Services, Associates and Operation at Nicola Wealth, where she leads one of the largest teams in the company. As key management member, Selena is responsible for strategic initiatives that grow the business by empowering others, building leadership, and developing client-facing teams to support the advisory services division's growth. Selena is a University of Calgary graduate, Calgary, I'm from Calgary, and holds a certified financial planner, chartered professional accountant, and certified management accountant designations. And beyond her day-to-day role, she hosts the Women's Lead podcast, we're going to get into that, at Nicola Wealth, celebrating and uplifting women from diverse backgrounds by sharing their stories, which you are such a huge champion for women. And I cannot say that enough. You are so incredible. Selena is a community champion, an advocate for empowerment, dedicated to advancing equity in youth, women, and women of color through impactful mentorship and sponsorship. Her servant leadership and ability to ignite potential in others serve as an inspiring model for female leaders. 100%, you are such an inspiring model. Actively involved in community, you volunteer with associations such as the Junior Achievement, the Union Gospel Mission, the CPABC, Vancouver Chinatown Foundation, and mentors women in capital markets mentorship program. You're also, I didn't know this, recipient of a 2022 5-star Leading Women of Wealth Award from Wealth Professional, and you're the runner-up for BC Business Women of the Year in 2023 Equity and Inclusion Champion, which 100%, that is you. Outside the office, Selena is a self-proclaimed foodie who enjoys traveling and spending time with her young family, Labradoodle Poodle, which I have as well, and friends. And her proudest accomplishment is being the mother of her 2 children. So just an incredible bio. Like, holy smokes, you are so accomplished. And I am so blessed to have you in my circle. And you are such a champion for women. And thank you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Erin, and you as well. And I think that's where having each other in our orbits really is magnetic, I think, for the 2 of us and the energy, because we're all rowing in the same direction. And I love that about you as well, because you are a huge champion too, Erin.
Oh, thank you. So I want to hear about your journey. So how's your journey brought you here to Nicola Wealth and where you are today?
Sure. So maybe I can start, Erin, maybe sharing my perspectives on the word journey and then incorporate my personal experiences. So when I think of journey, I think of it as this personal story, our personal story of transformation that's continuously evolving over time. And what I have found is that it's actually quite interesting how profoundly your career journey shapes you. There's many different stages and it's different for everyone. So your journey, Erin, is different than mine. Mine's different than yours. And that's what makes each of our stories so unique to be sharing. So thank you for giving me this space. Some achieve career milestones early on. For me, I would say I achieved that quote unquote success later in life. So I call myself a late bloomer in this regard. And I'm not sure your experiences, Erin, but for me, I look at a woman's career in 3 phases. So the first phase is your build phase. This is typically pre-kids. And then the second phase, I like to call it the cram it all in years of motherhood, which I think we are both in the throngs of currently.
Yes.
And the third phase is when your kids leave the house. And these phases matter because it does have an impact on career timelines, whether we want to admit it or like it or not. That's just reality. And one lesson that I've had to learn over time is there is no finish line. So we can compare to other people. We can compare where they're at, where we're at. but ultimately there is no finish line and there's no best before date when it comes to career and the different pivots that we may have over our career journey or trajectory over our lifetime. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I think of the word journey. It's really this storytelling, I guess you can say.
Huh.
And then for me, my personal aspect of the journey, um, from Calgary, Prairie Girl. I love that connection with us as well. So I am a first generation Chinese Canadian. My parents immigrated from China, and I was born and raised in Calgary. Still very much a Prairie Girl at heart, and definitely have this immigrant grit that my parents instilled in me growing up, and actually all of us, me and my siblings. I first entered financial services, that industry, as a part-time teller at a credit union when I was working part-time at university.
Hey.
Yes, it was, I don't know if you remember, but it was the first Calgary Credit Union and Savings. Um,
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, so it's a small member type
Yeah.
branch, very intimate with its members. And that was really my first foray. I didn't really know anything about personal finance or careers in personal finance prior to that. And so when I graduated from university, moved up to Vancouver. I think part of that was looking for my own independence, and minus 40 winters can get to you after a while. So I wanted to escape, some of that. And I guess you can say I fell into the industry and I've just stayed within this wealth management sphere for most of my career, actually for all of my career. Um, I wasn't one of those kids when I was young growing up who knew exactly what I wanted to do. I really struggled with that actually. And I felt a lot of pressure as a young kid. Everyone's asking, and of course, you have parents, and especially with immigrant parents, is always study hard, get a good job, work in a safe industry, make sure you work for big companies, right? So it's very risk adverse.
Yeah.
And even early in my career, I was still struggling with defining where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And
Mhm.
when I reflect on this, Erin, I actually, I don't know how you are with your daughter, but I try my best to refrain from asking my kids and other young people what they want to be when they grow up, because I feel like it sends a message that your job or title defines you and that your job or title equates to your worth, your self-worth. So
Yeah.
I really try to refrain from that. And really, I think we should all be asking, who do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh,
And
that's great.
what's the impact you want to make? So really shifting that narrative is what I'm trying to do. So I've always held, I've held different roles in different organizations throughout my career, always in wealth management, always client facing, because as you're probably aware, I love relationship management, I love relationship building, just love engaging with people. But what some people might not know when they look at my career trajectory to where I am today is that more than half of my career was in supporting type roles. So in coordinator, assistant type roles, always a co-pilot, but
Mhm.
never like really in a pilot position. And part of that, I think you've heard me speak about this in past, is that when I was growing up and early in my career, there weren't a lot of role models who looked like me in higher positions. So I didn't know how to go higher, where to go higher, or where to aspire to. And when I looked around me in these supporting type roles, there were always women. So
Mhm.
then I thought, oh, it's normal. I didn't really think twice about it. And it wasn't really until my late 20s when I started looking towards educational pursuits that my mindset started shifting. So you mentioned earlier, I have my certified financial planner designation, so my CFP. I did that in my late 20s. And then in my early 30s, I enrolled in the CPA program, which is the Chartered Professional Accountants program. And for me, that was a 3-year program. I didn't have the prerequisites or whatnot. So I started that program in my early 30s. A month in, I found out I was pregnant with her first. So here I am going 8 months of schooling, working full time, night school twice a week,
Gosh.
studying on
Oh
weekends.
my gosh.
And yeah,
And
it was
I-
a crazy time.
yeah.
And I wrote my entrance exam into the program, and exactly a week later, I gave birth. I was early, so I never got to enjoy, that pregnancy phase and whatnot. But what I learned from that is that it's never too late to pursue further education because life is a lifelong learning
Yeah.
journey, I guess you can say. And so when I convocated with my certification, our daughter was 2. And when I look back on that, I would have to say my 2 major career changes, I guess, that helped accelerate me or helped push me on my trajectory were actually both after my 2 maternity leaves. So yeah, it's quite interesting. So after my first maternity leave, I came back a few months later. I changed to a new organization, a new role. After my second maternity leave, I came back a few months later, landed here at Nicola Wealth. So it's quite interesting when women go through motherhood and how sometimes people can feel like it holds you back in a sense. Um, but for me, I would say, that journey was really around taking risks, trying new things, and having the confidence to start fresh.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know about you, Erin, but I think for women, um, we always have voices in our heads. We
Yeah.
always have these voices that are telling us this narrative or story. I also think for women, we have a misplaced sense of loyalty sometimes, and we feel bad a lot. Like we feel bad a lot. And so when I was going through these changes, when I came back from my first mat leave, those voices were, well, Selena, you can't leave. You just got back. You owe it to them. Um, you have to reprove yourself. What would people think? You just got back. So, that was kind of some of the conversations I had to talk my way out of in my own head. And then, I had kids a little bit later in life, and I always knew I wanted to. But when I changed to the job after my maternity leave, those voices again, Erin, you can't go on mat leave. You just started a new job. You haven't proven yourself. You have no social capital. You haven't built any new relationships, or no one knows who you are. So those are some voices there. Um, and then when I came back from my second mat leave, I had an opportunity at Nicola Wealth. A headhunter reached out to me, and it was interesting because the job scope for the requirement was, one of the bullet points I still remember was, experience managing large teams, experience managing 15 plus people. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I can't apply. I don't have that experience. I've never led a team that big. I was just entering management when I left. After my mat leave, I was a team lead of 4 people. So I really pondered, but then, I just saw Selena, you have to remove those thoughts. And what do I have to lose? So I went for it. And here I am. So I
They worked
started.
out.
Yeah, it did, right?
Right?
And one of those things, though, when we talk to young women or others out there, men will often look at a job application. Maybe they hit 2 out of the 10. And then their attitude is, when do I start? When are you hiring me? Versus women often feel they need to have like 90% of the requirements before they will even take that first step. So that was, that moment that I share with a lot of people in terms of just getting outside your comfort zone and really believing in yourself. And so I started at Nicola managing 15 people, and now I oversee this division of over 70 people across Canada.
That's amazing.
Thank
That's
you.
so cool. Well, and one of the things I mean, I didn't know as much. I've learned a lot more about Nicola Wealth this past year, right?
Yeah.
And you and just seeing the great work you guys are doing. And financial literacy is a really important focus
Mm.
for you guys at Nicola Wealth, especially for women. And I began really thinking more about, when I grew up, how my mom, when we didn't talk about money ever. And I began pondering that this past couple, as we've been ready for this podcast, is what conversations am I having with Michaela about money? What messaging is she getting about money? And so, in that, what do you think? When I've looked at one of these stats too, women live longer than men, for one, and we're actually attending university more than men too, the stats are showing, but we
Yeah.
have lower financial literacy scores. And so I
Mhm.
actually began thinking, gosh, what's my financial literacy score? It's probably not very high, you know? So what do you think really leads to that? Is it just the fact that we're not actually including women in the conversation from a young age, or are young boys getting more of the conversation about financial literacy than girls are? Do you think that's, or what do you think kind of leads to it?
I love this question. I feel like I can talk about this forever.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of different things, Erin. And it's interesting you mentioned the stat of more women attending university than men, but also more women attending graduate school as well.
Mhm.
But that's not translating to the workplace, or we don't see it
Yeah.
quite yet. And I think the different layers of financial literacy, it cascades down and up. So if you equip women with financial literacy knowledge, confidence, then they bring it down. They talk to their kids about that, or their friends, or they mentor others or bring it into their network. So you're actually creating generational waves of people that are upskilling themselves in this area. And if you don't mind, I actually did write down some other stats that I would
Okay,
love
yeah.
to share.
Yes.
Because I do think it would really hit home the critical importance for women to be confident in financial literacy, to have financial literacy. So Canadian women are projected to hold $4.2 trillion in assets by 2028 and are breadwinners in more than 40% of Canadian households.
Wow.
Yes. Women advisors are still a minority in the industry, representing 18% of advisors in the full service broker space.
Really?
Correct. Yes. We're
Wow.
making progress. We're making progress.
Yeah. Well, Nicola
But
Wealth
we
definitely
still
okay.
have, quite a ways to go. 52% of women report feeling confident to retire at the target age versus 68% of men. 78% of women desire greater access to financial literacy resources. 73% of women do not have a financial plan in place versus 64% of men. And 80% of women avoid conversations with loved ones, fearing judgment and misunderstanding. So
Wow.
that's quite interesting when you think about what is leading to women having lower financial literacy scores.
Yeah.
Um, so being in the industry over the years, and having two young kids, a daughter and a son, I definitely not think, sorry, I definitely believe we can change this narrative. But first, we have to be aware of what some of those factors are that you've mentioned. Definitely cultural and societal norms. Absolutely. The cultural piece definitely impacts more of the immigrant women or women of color. Societal norms. You mentioned you didn't learn a lot about money growing up. You didn't talk about it with your mom. So when we think about finances and money, it's emotional. There's psychological aspects to it. And often our first experiences with money sets the stage for how we look at money over time. So if you didn't really speak about it with your mom, then like how does that impact how you look at money and what you know and translating down to Michaela? And for me, my experience here would be my parents did quite a good job navigating Canadian financial landscape, but always ingrained in us like save, 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 budget, budget, budget. So of course, when I moved out and got my own job and my own, I spend a lot because I am so tired of hearing the word budget, right? So, but it's important to understand the whys behind that. You mentioned earlier as well, boys and girls. Is there a difference in perhaps the encouragement, education they receive? I do, regarding financial matters and associated careers. Movies like Wall Street, Wolf on Wall Street, just
Yeah.
shows all these men making all this money. But I think we have to normalize for young girls and ambitious women to be okay saying they want a job to make money.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
right? I think often women feel, or young girls feel like they have to say, well, I want a job to help people, to care. And you can definitely do that because a job in wealth management as an advisor, you are caring for people. You're caring about their financial outcome and economic security. But we need to start removing that taboo, I think, for young girls and women to say that. Talked about earlier, impact of motherhood. That's the reality. There's going to be interruptions. So those interruptions could lead to income disparity, different job types. Um, Women are assumed to be more risk adverse, so more risk aversion. Confidence is a huge piece, Erin. So the confidence to learn, to ask questions. And the big thing for me that I think about a lot is representation of role models. So
Mhm.
when you think about some of these factors, maybe women, not as many women going into wealth management, pursuing careers in asset management, but what role models are there for them to see other women paving the path and being successful? I
Yes.
think that's a key piece to igniting that inspiration, but then also helping young people aspire to go higher because that was a barrier or limitation for me when I was younger.
And so when we're looking at having conversations, like if I'm having conversations with Michaela about financial
Mhm.
management, what would be some of the conversations you would have? Would you go over budgeting? Would you go over spending? Would you go over like how would you go do a monthly budget with your daughter and sit down and show her how everything like she kind of knows the household costs and
Mhm.
whatnot. She understands
Yeah.
that. But what would be some of the suggestions?
Some of the practical suggestions would just be even starting at a base level and trying to incorporate that into your everyday. So even when you're going grocery shopping, just recognizing the prices and the cost of things,
Hmm.
right? So, okay, well, here's a no-name brand can of beans, here's a regular brand. So that way they're able to even see the difference in pricing in terms of what you're paying for. And and I think even before that is getting younger kids perhaps to understand where money comes from. I know earlier on when my kids were younger, and my son's 8 turning 9, I think he still thinks it's a little bit, but you know when you're charging your credit card, it's not free money. You have to pay. Because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I don't have cash on me. He's like, oh, we'll just use your credit card. I'm like, yes, but you have to still pay for that, right, through your bank account. So I think it's getting to understand where does money come from, having them open a bank account. So I have them both with a bank account with the old school checkbook where you kind of write in how much you deposit, how much you're taking, how much you earn in interest. Um, and I think for Michaela as a teen, I think even before you get into the technical side of budgeting and cash flow. I use the word cash flow instead of budgeting because I have
Yeah.
a thing with that word. So it's cash flow management. So
Yeah.
just get them to understand what's going in and what's coming out,
Yeah.
right? And then how do you make sure you're spending what's in the black and you don't get into the red? So kind of keeping it simple, but for them to understand gratefulness and pressing gratitude. Because when they're able to appreciate what they have and see what they have and appreciate it, then they're not going to necessarily feel the need as much to buy things to fill a void or
Mhm.
to fill something. So I think that's one thing. Smart spending. So a need versus a want. So being able to put in place goals. So your birthday's coming up. What do you want to save for? What's a big ticket item? So then they also remove that instant gratification because instant gratification is definitely out there right now with young people. Everything's on the app. You can order things right away, Amazon Prime. So I think it's the technical side there is a cash flow, keeping track of things so you're able to visually see how much you're taking out of what you have. But the underlying bucket of that, Aaron, the overlay, I guess you can say, is really the concept of ingraining in your kids the importance of investing in yourself.
Mhm.
So what do you need to do to invest in yourself? Talk to them about financial independence. What does that mean? Then that comes into like income and careers. So for Michaela, maybe having her do a gratitude board or a vision board for career. Where does she want to go long term? What does she want to be? And then you work backwards and kind of see, okay, what's that goal setting and planning from that regard? So I think financial independence is something that's really important. My mom used to always tell me that even when I was a kid, you have to make sure you're financially independent. Don't rely on anyone. Don't rely on someone else's money. So what does that mean? What do you
100%.
need? Especially for young girls, I'm really thinking about how do you own it for yourself? And again, it goes back to the career side, I think, in terms of passions are absolutely very important, Erin, to find things you're passionate about. But there's also importance in pursuing a career that not only aligns with your passion, but provides financial stability.
100%.
And so having them explore and just talking about money at your dinner table, where are your bank accounts, what do your statements look like, where are you investing, how much are you saving, and just to normalize and having money conversations at the table.
Well, we're leaving for Italy next Thursday, and so
Ooh,
Michaela babysits. She
very nice.
very, very well with the babysits. So what I've been doing with her, especially when she deposits it in, because usually e-transfer her, she has two accounts. So she has to put a little bit from every time she babysits into her savings account, right? So
Yeah,
she has that. But the big thing she was saving for is to buy euros. So when we're in Italy, she'll have her own spending money, right? So that was part of her thing this year was to save
yeah.
for that. But I do find I mean, my parents didn't have a lot of money growing up. So there is that part of me who wants to who I tend to give her more money than I ever had. My mom never gave me $20 a week or $40 a week to, buy stuff and go for lunch and do things and get my
Mhm.
nails done. I never had those luxuries. And so sometimes I'm like, okay, I do like buying her stuff, but maybe I need to because you want to, of course, make them appreciate it, make them understand that it's not just this money tree that we have constantly shows up, right? So I'm working on that with her too and having her really, because sometimes she'll be like, can I have $20 more? And I'm like, I just gave you like
Hmm.
$20 3 days ago. What are you
Yeah,
doing? She's like, well, I ate lunch. I'm like, for what? I'm like, we have food, And so the other day
for
she
sure.
said, she's like, I think I should start packing lunch. I'm not spending as much money. And I'm like, that is a great idea because she's 15, 16, right? So then
Hmm.
I'll go to the local pizza place. And so
Yeah,
she started
for
packing lunch
sure.
as well to save a little bit more. But those type of things, especially I think when everybody wants to be out and just buying or shopping or spending
Oh,
and
oh,
having
definitely.
attention to it.
And I think part of that though, Aaron, is like that's a really great exercise. Like how much are you saving? Are you putting things away? But then also have them think about the third bucket in terms of, how are they giving, how do they want to give back?
Yeah.
So what does it look like in terms of, really impact spending, impact investing, but kind of preparing them, having this healthy money mindset that will empower them in the future versus like the fear and anxiety, but also thinking about, well, how are there charities that you're really passionate about? Do you want to volunteer different organizations? Maybe they're saving a little bit every month, maybe even $2 a month. Maybe they want to go toward the SPCA or whatever it looks like. So they start getting into this giving back
Yeah.
mindset as well, where they understanding that in this world there are people who are less fortunate. So then how do we, if we are in a more fortunate position, kind of help others?
Mhm.
And what I appreciate about you, Aaron, is that, Michaela will see though, yeah, even though you are giving her more than what you had from your mom and whatnot, she also sees how hard you work for the
Yeah.
money that you're earning. So I think that is a big role model that you're doing for Michaela, that for women as well.
It's funny when I still have the paste paper, I kept it, but she was doing fragmented sentence, so putting sentences together. I think it must have been like grade one, grade two. So it was like she was little, but it said, my mom works hard. My mom works hard for us. And I always kept that because she had
Love that.
and I was just like, oh. So I do know that I mean, even this past Mother's Day, she wrote a beautiful card to me and she's like, you are one of the hardest working women I've ever,
Mhm.
obviously that she sees because she's with me all the time, but in that she knows how hard I work for it too. And
Yeah.
I think, sometimes when she asks for money like that, I'm a little like, hey, and she's always very grateful, like, thank you so
Mhm.
much, mom. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. But in that, it's like you have to also be a little more conscious of what you're spending your money on, right? So for you
For
to be
sure.
like with all your friends and you're buy your friend, I'm very much a gift giver. Like much part
Mhm.
of my love language is buying gifts, and I know she's the same way. So she's always buying her friends things, and I'm like, oh, I demonstrate that because I always buy my friends experiences or things too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, she's definitely has been able to see how hard I've had to work.
Yeah.
Where we are.
I don't see you every day, Aaron, and I see how hard you work, right?
Yeah.
You're out there pounding, and I think that shows resilience and the grit piece as well. And I love that she loves to give and you love to give. I feel that a lot. But I think it's just important for people or young kids to recognize that, life is the middle of giving and receiving. So
Yeah.
just making sure, not saying you owe me one, but it's like, how do we just have more of that concept of giving and receiving? Because that is what life is the middle of. And one thing I've actually started, not with my 8-year-old, but with Lucia, who's almost 12, is that when I do give her money or whatnot, it's her writing down what she spent that on. So when you're
Oh, I
able
like
to
that.
visually see what you spent it on, otherwise $20, like that's gone with like
Yeah.
one bubble tea these days or whatever, right? So you're able to see like what's the value of what you're spending on. And when they write it down, they're able to better visualize and it's tangible for them
Yeah.
to think it, okay, wow, I spent $7 on this one drink.
Hmm.
Wow. So is this, and then
Love
you
that.
tie that into,
Good idea.
when you go shop for groceries, I can buy 5 bananas for $2, but you spent seven on a drink. So it's just like then that way you're able to tie things together for them to better understand how everything's integrated.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. That's a great idea. I should probably, I need to be writing down more what I'm spending too,
Well,
but
that's scary for me.
well, so we'll leave it to the kids to do that.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
So looking at Nicola Wealth, I mean, you guys have you have a workforce of 44% women and 40% women in senior leadership. So you guys are really leading. I mean, obviously you're a prime example of a company that's really, walking the walk and like doing
Hmm.
the talk, right? So,
For
and as a
sure.
leader, you're one of the largest teams in the organization. So who inspired you to become the leader you are today and why?
That's a really good question. I think, we kind of mentioned just being around, in an organization where you do see a lot of women leaders. I always look at the word empowerment, Erin, as, you can't be empowered if not in the right environment,
Mm,
to thrive in. So I think the who would definitely be, I think, my parents and my kids. From the perspective of, when you're a parent, it really shifts how you need to show up for others, whether at home or in the workplace, and how you lead, how you inspire others, the words that you use, how you're motivating and lifting up. And so for me as a leader, I kind of take, my day job, everything that I do here, and package it externally as well. And is really for me about how are we all, like, we're all responsible, right, Aaron? We're all responsible. We're all allies, to helping, lift up others and lift up the next gen. And the way I see it, it's not like a zero-sum game where, you can have one woman at the top. You can have 50, 60, 100. It doesn't really matter. But it's really like this leadership style or philosophy I have is really, the more we lift everyone up, naturally the more opportunities that creates, and then that in itself casts this wider net, that's going to create that more equitable world. And that's, I guess, the what and the who, I suppose, when I think of leadership. Michaela's, I think she's almost 15, you mentioned, or
15 turning
yeah,
16 for
15
Champ's
turning 16.
birthday
Yeah.
this September.
Yeah, crazy, right? So Lucia's 11 turning 12. I really think about, how am I making a difference? And I think that's what we're all here for. We're all here to make a difference. It's not me. It's not me making a difference for myself and my own individual ambition. It's me making a difference for others. So that when Lucia, Michaela, and other young women or girls are coming up in their career, how have we made a difference in paving that path for them, so they don't have to experience those same barriers or, those quote unquote challenges that we had to face? How do we start normalizing all of this? How do I create that space in that world and pave that path for my son to be that ally, to be a strong ally, to partner with strong women and support women and championing them? And I think it's just, Erin, it's so important that we sponsor and champion women. We mentor a lot, I think. I think women get mentored to death, but we need a sponsor, and champion. And so I do look at my parents and my kids as kind of, the leader I am today, and my why for trying to make a difference by championing and empowering others, and just, creating more of that space. I guess I call myself more like this hype girl. I want to just hype up people because we need more of that. We do, we've made progress, but there's still a long way to go. And that's kind of the who and the why, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I went to the Ultimate Hype Girl event a couple weeks ago, and I was at the Women's League, which I was like, it was such a pleasure to go. I was, wow, what an event. It was so
Thank you.
incredible.
Well, thank you for joining us. It was great
Oh,
to have you there. And I loved having you there as part of our community and movement. And we definitely appreciated it.
well, it's just so inspiring to see. I mean, there's so many incredible women. When I go to summits at another PR event the other night, and like all these women entrepreneurs, like there's so many women who are just going for it and following their dreams and creating these incredible businesses and leading with integrity. And it was so great to see all these women leaning into greatness that were in that room as well. And so you can you tell me more about the event first? This was my first one. I know that you guys have two events. You have one in the East, one in the West.
Correct.
And then also talk a little bit about your podcast, because you host the Women's Lead podcast as well. So can you talk a little bit
Correct.
about that as well?
Definitely. And you hit it, Erin, that when you're in these rooms with other women, who are all rowing in the same direction, we're all rallying around a common cause and goal. We're all there to, lift each other up. Like it really is this incredible energy. It's very similar to how, women, have the importance of having strong women relationships and friendships. Like we have this connection energy. And Women's Lead stands for Leadership, Excellence, Achievement, and Diversity. And it's really centered around uniting us through community and connection. And we call it a movement that's dedicated to lifting women up from all backgrounds, all ages, by sharing their stories. So we had our opening speaker who really talked about the importance of all of us having this red dress moment in terms of, standing out, being unique, sharing our unique stories, finding our voice. What's that confidence like? And then, we have, our moderator. So our opening was Lakita Claire. Our moderator for both events, Paulina Cameron, who's, as you know, absolutely
Unbelievable.
dynamic, and the
Unbelievable.
champion of champions of champions
Yes.
for
Yes.
women. And I think, and then we had our panelists, and really that the idea, who are all amazing as well. And the idea is that by sharing these stories, by sharing their journey, by sharing their lessons learned, their takeaways, that is our takeaway. Those are our tangible, inspirational pieces that we move with us. And that creates more movement of all of us being inspired to continue paving the way for others, to continue this excitement around what we can do as a collective. Because
Yes.
it's a collective, right, Erin? It's not, you go sit in the corner and you do your thing. It's like this all rallied together. And I think when you're there in these women events or the other one that you went to, you feel it. You feel this commitment, dedication that we all have to each other.
Yeah.
And so with the podcast, as you mentioned, it's off of that same platform is really around storytelling, like we're doing today. And so my goal is to help women amplify their voices, share their stories, and really to spark inspiration in others. Because again, you can't be what you can't see. So the
Yeah.
idea is to have as many diverse women from different diverse backgrounds, career paths. I'm really trying to showcase the different journeys that women go through and the commonalities, irrespective what industry you're in, irrespective if you're a woman entrepreneur with a nutrition supplements business or a woman entrepreneur in tech. There's commonalities for us as women that pull us together and unite us. And so really that's my goal. It's the podcast. So it's just how can I inspire action? So I think it's not just, being inspired is like, how do we inspire action so that we can drive forward change together and really being this, beacon of hope and possibility.
And do you find in your career, has there been any barriers you really had to break through to kind of get to where you are today? Do you have some that, or do you kind of, has it been, has your trajectory kind of been this nice flow, or have you really had to, I mean, I guess we all had barriers we had to break, but
Yeah, there's a lot. I definitely, I would say yes. And I don't think I've ever, the way I look at barriers is that if I've truly broken through a barrier, it means it no longer exists. But
yeah,
I think barriers are things that I still navigate on a day-to-day basis, things that come up. And I think the biggest barrier for me, and I think for all women actually that still shows up throughout various stages of your career. It doesn't matter where you are. Is this tall poppy syndrome? I don't know if you've heard of it. Women of Influence Plus wrote a report on it. Last year is that we society and we as women, like you and I, and we go to these events and we encourage women really to find your voice and be confident, own it,
yeah,
right? Share your accomplishments, your achievements, be unique, stand out, that red dress moment. But we need everyone else to rally around us and truly believe that. Because if you're the tallest poppy, so that's kind of the concept, the tallest poppy, you get cut down because maybe you're too tall, maybe you're too loud, Aaron. It's like that Barbie monologue, right? You have to be nice, but you can't be too nice. You have to be direct, but you can't be too direct. And that is the reality of the world that I think we're still living in. So I think that's where we need everyone behind us, like
yeah.
everyone, women as well, right? To
Mhm.
truly support one another. Versus trying to cut down or push down. A woman is assertive, yes, awesome,
Yes,
direct, but Lucia, and I think I see Michaela like in some photos, like very confident.
yeah.
I but we need to ensure that when they enter their workplace and they show up as their authentic selves,
Mhm.
bold, loud, direct, that the workplace and the environment they're in is able to support them.
100%.
Right. And then I do think one thing I think all of us is really the main barrier, I think, Aaron, is within ourselves, right?
Yeah,
Like, how do we get out of our own way? What is that barrier? We all have that moments of self-doubt,
yeah.
the negative
Am I
self-talk,
enough? Am I enough?
right?
Am I smart enough? Should I be
Yeah. Should I
doing
be
this?
here? Should I
Should I
be here?
be here?
And I
Do I
think the
deserve to
main,
be
yeah.
here?
And the main thing is really that voice, Aaron, that, because even if you fight your way to get a seat at that table, your seat doesn't matter if you don't have a voice to go with it.
100%.
So advocate for yourself, surround yourself with cheerleaders who champion you, people who want to see you win.
Yeah.
That is so important. And then we champion others back because we want to see others win. So I think there's this I think there's still this circular success that we can be a part of. And I think part of it is within ourselves, but also just embracing the uniqueness that we all bring, and the encouragement for all of us to use our voice.
Well, you are, I mean, you are such an incredible champion. I mean, I was driving with Laura. We were coming down to an event. I think it was coming, we were coming to the forum event, I think it was. And we actually were talking about you. And I was just, and she was like, she's such a champion. She's so amazing. She always is like the person, you know, who greets you and says hi to you, and you know everybody's name. And you just have that, you embody that, which is just so spectacular because it's something when I look at that and I'm like, I need to be more like that. So now I try to be more like that. And that's the thing is like, if we all
That
do
is,
that, right, then it's doing
yes,
this to everybody. We are
exactly.
constantly thinking of ways in which, how can I support somebody? And even I began to looking at just a household way. And I usually do all buy from, the businesses that I service, but even more
Mhm.
so being like, hey, where can I buy this item that I know a woman in business is creating? Or where can I, so supporting on that level as well. So not only
Yes,
by this, but champion them on sharing posts or sharing their stuff or their
exactly,
stuff and
exactly.
constantly really champion and rally behind them.
For
So
sure. And I think I've read like networking, like the word networking is very different between men and women as well,
yeah,
right? Networking isn't meeting as many people as possible. For me, anyway, I think for women, and what you just mentioned here, is like, how do we connect as many people as we can to other people? Right. So you're really spreading these tentacles of supporting each other. And yeah, thank you very much for that. And I think that's where I always love seeing you at events, Erin, because like again, like when you're around women who just have this the belief, it's the ethos within themselves that really comes through in terms of fulfillment. And then we all rally, and then you see, I see, we all embody, or want to embody, the behaviors of others, and that really helps others shine. And we're all responsible for that, Erin. I firmly believe that we are.
I totally agree with that. So aside from your incredible career, obviously, and your championing of women, you are a mom, mother, a partner, and a dog mom too. Can't forget the dog.
Mom.
So I asked, it was funny, I had Paulina Cameron on and I asked her this question too, and she had such a great answer for the word balance. But how do you find time for balance? And I'll tell you what hers was quickly. But she said one thing she does is she focuses exactly where she is in each moment. And that's how she finds balance. So if she's with her kids, she's all in with her kids. When she's at work, she's all in at work. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And that's such a
Mhm.
great, I love that analogy of like, that's a great way to think of balance, right? And so for yourself, how do you find balance if that word exists for you? I know with me, sometimes it doesn't really exist.
So, my answer is similar to Paulina's, and I really I try to refrain from the word balance,
Yeah.
because it doesn't exist. I think it puts way too much pressure on all of us to try and achieve that. So I like to change it to work-life fulfillment. So really, how work-life fulfillment, right? Because
Yeah.
ultimately you want to fill your bucket with things that like refuel you. But what gives you that energy? Because you give from a you give from the overflow of your cup, right? Not from an empty cup. So what do you need to refuel, fill it up? So really being purpose led and purpose driven, I think, has helped me be really intentional what I'm saying yes to and what I'm saying no to. And I feel like that's helped me build a really strong community, you being one of them in my community. And similar to Paulina, it's almost like every person has a different ratio that is equilibrium, right? So for example, maybe my 1 week when I look at my calendar is like, whoa, I've got a ton of meetings this week, or I've got 3 events after work, or I'm volunteering here. Then you just know that for that 1 week, okay, maybe I'm 65% with work, and then I'm 20% with the kids, or that's family, and then whatever percent left with myself or friends, right? So every week, I think your equilibrium is going to shift within what's going on in your world. So this past week, I would have to say my equilibrium has been, probably 75% kids. End of school is coming up, tons of sports finishing up, school presentations, right? Then you just know, okay, well, this week, you know what, I can't be working these long hours or all these days, right? So then your percentage is going to be less for this week. So I like to think of this circle, this wheel of life, right? Your circle, and like what's the percentages in terms of like where are you focusing? And it does differ from week to week. And that I think has helped me figure out my quote unquote equilibrium of
Yeah.
where I need to be, mentally, physically, and emotionally for that week.
I love that. That's a great, no, that's awesome. So we're gonna slowly wrap things up, but I'm gonna ask
Mhm.
you some more fun questions, and these are kind of my more personal ones. What is one thing you would tell your 20-year-old self?
Uh, Definitely bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. Believe in yourself, to dream big, play big, and just be you. I want everyone, and this is what I would tell myself. And it's just this voice that would be: pave your own path, own your own unique journey, define your own standards for success. I think that's an important one, because you're your own agent of life. And I want all of us, and I wish I knew this back in my 20s too. We should all strive to be footprints on the moon. Like how so you just really want to dream big, and the bet on yourself piece. I always tell both my kids, actually, when we talk about like best friends or besties, I always say to them, your bestie is yourself. You
Mhm.
have to love yourself, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to have confidence in yourself.
Yeah. Because you're the one you're going to be with the whole entire journey.
Exactly. And you
You
will
know?
always be the last one standing. My
Yeah.
mom gave me that advice early on. It was: be financially independent, don't rely on other people's money, because you will always be the last one standing.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a spouse today, 30 years from now, maybe you're not.
Yeah.
What does that look like? You need to recognize that for yourself.
Yeah. No, that's so true.
Yeah.
What is your favorite treat?
I don't know if it's considered a treat, but I love bubbles. So I'm definitely a champagne girl.
Bubbles?
Prosecco.
Bubbles. Oh, for sorry, I'm like bubbles, bubbles.
Oh,
Oh,
no, no, bubble. Yeah. Yes. So
love that.
champagne,
Yes.
prosecco, mimosas, love.
Oh, okay, love
Is
that.
that considered a treat? I don't know.
That's a treat. Oh, that's a treat. That's a treat.
Okay.
What is your favorite swear word? You can
Um,
say whatever you want. It's fully
yeah, I don't know if it's a swear, but I say hot dang a lot.
hot dang.
Yeah, hot dang. I don't know, maybe it's like a Calgary Prairie thing, but I just say hot
Very
dang a
good.
lot.
That's
Hot
good. Like
dang.
that. Hot dang.
Yeah, hot
Okay.
dang.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you so much for coming on today. Um, this has been such a great conversation. I think so many different tips I'm going to pull out that I'm going to start. I love the whole Michaela giving back more. Like she has her money and she has her savings, but I really like the idea of pulling at least $3, $4 off of every. I
Yeah.
never really thought about that. We do donation to Downtown Eastside Women's Shelter with Erin Wellness, and so I've wanted to take her in to do volunteering down there too. But in that, I think I love the idea of constantly putting money towards something as well. That's a charitable donation. I think that's a really great takeaway for me, for her, be working with her on that. Is there anything you'd like to, where can people find you? Where can they watch all the wonderfulness that you're doing?
So one would be come find me on LinkedIn, join our movement. So join our
Yes.
Women's Lead newsletter, subscribe to that. You'll get monthly newsletters. You'll get monthly newsletters that feature articles, blogs. So I also love writing. So I also write articles and blogs in addition to podcasts. So come join us, come find us there. And maybe my call to action, Erin, would be for each of us to leave after this and let's go champion one person. So you leave
Yes.
today, let's go help amplify, let's share the word, spread the word, and just help each other out.
Love that. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you, Erin.
today. Thank you. Thank you. Have a fantastic day. And to everybody else, I look forward to seeing you next month on the
Thank
Friends.
you.
Thank
Love
you.
it.